Back to talking with Tiffany. I'm feeling kind of silly today. Welcome everyone. It's Sunday, Self Sundays, and today's topic is self triggered. Today I have a great friend of mine and a new author, Yasmin. And hopefully another special guest will be popping in. She's having some difficulties getting on. But I'm going to bring on our guest, Yasmin. Hello, beautiful.
Good morning, gorgeous.
How are you?
Honestly, I'm tired, but I'm good.
Jasmine is amazing because she hopped on here last minute. I honestly, to be fully transparent, forgot that I did not schedule a topic for today. Was so proud of myself that I went 4 Sundays strong that I forgot that there was 5 Sundays in this month. And so I am like, what can be the topic? And she's like, I told her last night, I was like, I don't know what it is, and then this morning I realized something and I'm like, here's what it has to be. Self-triggered.
Love it. I love it. I'm ready for it.
And interestingly enough, this has been happening all week for us. And we have experienced some things, but even just last night and this morning, very much this morning, I experienced this, and then I was like, "Oh my God, this is a problem, and I have to fix this because I got very emotional yesterday and today, and I was triggered yesterday, but then self-triggered today, and I was like, I was trying to distinguish the difference."
Mm-hmm.
And so triggers are anything that reminds someone of a previous trauma. To be triggered is to have an intense emotional or physical reaction, such as a panic attack, after encountering a trigger. Now, what I will say to our audience that is watching, trauma does not necessarily mean like that you bleed or or anything huge. It could just be something that you remember, and it's traumatic to you. And so children, and most of the times trauma happens in your childhood, and so a lot of things are triggers from your childhood that were traumatic to a child. And so as an adult, we look at it like that ain't no doggone trauma, but as a child, when things happen to children, we can't really explain that for kids. And so our first thing is, what are things do you allow just to trigger you? Not your self triggers, but just things that trigger you.
That's a really good question. Look, and I, like you said, I had no time to think about it. So,
Off the dome.
I know, for real. I
I'm gonna let
think
you think about it really quick because I'm gonna read something. So because I'm gonna let you do that.
okay.
Um. Okay, so I'm gonna read this passage from my book, and I'm gonna see if it triggers something for you.
Okay.
It says, "Raise your hand only in your head if you and don't just because you don't want to feel silly. If you've ever used the phrase above, it's not me, it's you." Research says that this one is one of the main excuses used during a relationship breakup. Whether it be romantic or platonic, this is the one reason given. When people use this phrase above, they aren't associating themselves with the blame. They use themselves as scapegoats to avoid the admissions of one's toxic traits. So what is exactly a scapegoat? Well, I'm glad you asked. A scapegoat, someone or something that is assigned that the blame or made to take fall for something they didn't do. This omission is temporary escape from dealing with yourself because typically the other person is challenging you to be something you are not prepared to be. Accepting that you are the problem takes a long time to come to grips with for many people. It's okay. We're here for you. I struggle with this for quite some time. I've gone on many self discoveries and I've always enjoyed the essence of my experiences throughout life. And sometimes I would unknowingly overindulge in those experiences. Self triggered. For example, I grew up debating everything anyone said. If it didn't make sense to me, I would create arguments just for me to get someone to see my side of things. This behavior was not healthy. It became a toxic trait that I overused so I would win the argument. After many failed self discoveries about this reoccurring issue, I needed to understand why I had become so thirsty for that type of attention and why the only thing that was appetizing to my ego was the need to be correct. It didn't matter to me to be the victor in any of the situations. It made me the victim. That drained me. It was feeding my spirit snacks when we all know that snacks are not fulfilling. They are just tasty for the time being. By that time, I realized I had manifested an addiction. Along with other toxic behaviors, they would all end up teaching me precious lessons that would one day enhance my life's quality. What snacks are you using to supplement your hearty meals? Do you know what feeds your spirit? I do. It's called purpose. We'll get into that later. And just really quick, our other special guest has just come on, so I'm going to bring her in a second. Really quick, Yaz, do you know what triggers you?
I literally was thinking right before you got to it, being the victim, playing the victim is literally what triggers me. So if someone does something and it just, I like the word irks my soul, then it's easy for me to find fault in the other person and then not myself. And so I'll trigger myself and start this downward spiral, or I was, because I'm coming out of that.
Oh, and here we come, Miss Bonita Allen. Welcome to the stage.
Oh. Hey, beautiful queen.
Hey.
All right. It's good to see you guys.
It's good to see you too.
Thank you so much, Tiffynee, for allowing me to be in the presence of both you and Miss Howell. Hi, Yasmin.
Hi, gorgeous.
For those of you guys don't know, Miss Allen has played an instrumental role in me and Yasmin's life. She was the secretary at Clover Park High School. She was the joy that God gives you in the morning when you walk into the school. And she has really blessed both of our lives and made it very livable, especially going through those times in our life. So I just want to give you a Black excellence round of applause because you are.
Yay! I accept that. To God be the glory.
Yes.
So today's topic is self-triggered, and so Yasmin was just answered. What things do you allow to trigger you?
And is that for me now? That question? So I don't mean to allow them to trigger me, but often they do. And what it is when someone tries to make me seem uneducated or as if I don't know what's going on when I do, just to make them feel better. It makes them feel better to feel like they have all the tools and the power and that I don't have a clue or know anything about what's happening. So if that makes you feel better to downplay my education and my experience, if that makes you feel better, you roll with that because I know who I am. So,
Right.
but it used to be a trigger for me and I'd be like, oh, wait, I can't stand conversations where you're still repeating over what you've already said. And here we are arguing, we're saying the same thing, we just understand it differently. And that drives me crazy. So if it makes you feel better to think you're the bigger man or woman, you go on with that. That was my trigger. Dealing with what I call just uncouth.
Gotcha. So when you look at that, what things do you allow to self-trigger you?
Things are allowed to self-trigger, like to bounce back.
More of like for me, I'll give you a good example. This morning, I recognize that I lack self-ignorance. I have self-ignorance because what I was thinking was that I could be kind to people that are mean to me, and not that I can be kind to them, that it doesn't hurt me. And so then it led into self-triggered because I will continue to follow these people or keep up, just be kind, and just make sure like I'm not the one with the problem, but not realizing how self-triggered hurt. I was literally triggering wait, this person hurt me and I didn't do anything, and recognizing that. So that's the question now that because Yasmin actually, she said what triggers her and then she turned hers in how she realized that it was herself triggering herself.
Yeah, that's how I felt about speaking with people who I thought wanted the power. And at the same time, with dealing with women, how we're so used to being undermined or looking to find flaws in each other. I always find myself in the position to turn it around to compliment or give something to them that they can take away. Like, wait, you came with negativity and here I am turned around saying, but you look good though. Or it looked good on you, turn it around. And that used to that was a trigger. is finding something good to say instead of what's wrong, what's right.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
How do you both avoid those triggers now that you, once you recognize, like, wait, this is me causing this, like I am the person that did this. Like for me, I realize that I have to mute a person's story, or because it's just for the time being, even if God is separating us at that time, I just have to learn how to mute stuff, because when I'm self-triggering myself, because I have that ability to control what I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I feel like the way that I avoid turning into the victim is by literally stopping. Okay, so I used to be impulsive with my reactions, and that's how I was able to become the victim so quickly. And so now just I take a step back and I'll pray and I'll try to breathe, because I realize how quickly I can go from 0 to 100 in my emotions. I'm very emotional. And so I'll stop and think about the whole situation. Like I have to replay it in my perspective, but then replayed in the other person's perspective as well, so that I can see their point of view. So
Mm-hmm.
then if I feel like the victim at the end of it, I have to ask some questions. Like if it comes to that point, I have to have that uncomfortable conversation to be able to see, you know what, I'm not the victim in this. We're both the victim in some capacity. How do we get over this hump? How do I get to a healthy place where it feels like, okay, maybe this situation just isn't supposed to be anymore?
That's
That's
good.
good, Jazz. That's good. And then I don't know if age has something to do with this experience that I'm about to give the both of you. How to avoid those triggers. Totally avoid them. I can I'm in charge of how I feel. If I choose to be happy, I protect my energy. I do not allow the negativity. If I'm in a conversation or if I'm in a place and it happens to some of the triggers pop up where people want the power or they want you to seem less than, I can remove myself. You know why? Because I am who I am and I can do what I want. I choose. And so if I choose not to be a part of that conversation that's going to leave that place and end up negative, I'm not going to be there. I used to be that victim. But now that I am a survivor and I know who I am, I can choose. Nobody can put you where you don't want to be. And that includes not only in your happy place, but sometimes a lot of us, we don't like peace too long. If it's too quiet or too many good things are happening, we like, wait a minute, somebody need to throw a rock in this and put a little ripple in there. I need some action. I need some discord. I need some dysfunction. No, you don't.
Yeah.
I like peace. And once you get there and you understand it and you feel it, baby, I cut somebody. They try to interrupt my peace right now. I don't have time for that. I'm a grown up. I choose. And I love being happy. It feels good here. And it's a whole lot easier. And neither one of us realized how simple life was. We know that we can do all things through Christ. He is our strength. We've read that. But when you believe it, it
Mm.
changes your whole perspective. I believe that. When I read it, I started believing. At first, it was just something you just read, like how you just learn throughout life. But when you start believing it and applying it to your life, like Jasmine said, sometimes you have to step back and be like, whew, say a prayer, be like, Lord, give me strength. But you shouldn't have to always be in those situations. So, I mean, like, where are you going? Who are you connecting with? What are you listening to? You choose. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love that you said you believe it. And I was looking up the definition. I love words. But to believe is to accept something as true. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we'll read something, and it's so funny how we are so quick to believe something that's true about something that's false, yet have such a hard time anchoring ourselves in something that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because it's easier.
yeah, and it's even the funny thing about even allowing something to tell you that triggers you. Believing that, that is a trigger for me. I recognized yesterday that growing up and not realizing, and my next question was, what's the last thing that triggered you?
Hmm.
Was yesterday my daughter had a volleyball game, and my parents, my mom tried to come, and my dad couldn't come, and I kept looking over to the crowd. I was triggering myself by looking over to the crowd, seeing if they had showed up, like to see, because my daughter was on the court, and I'm coaching, and I just want to see them, we're getting ready to move and stuff like that. And then I had to tell myself, stop looking over there. Because regardless or not, you're here, you're present.
Right.
And I had to keep reminding myself. And I remember when we got home, I was in the kitchen, I was washing the dish, and I just started crying. Because I was just like, that was real. That was a real feeling I was feeling about being triggered. And I had to realize how to deal with that too, because
you're cutting out.
My Wi-Fi. Is it coming out still?
It's a little pixelated.
Yeah.
We can still hear you though.
Okay, my Wi-Fi connection is a little bad, and I'm trying to get it back.
Okay.
But I was saying that the next question is how do you destroy those triggers? And I'm going to that what I had to do yesterday. But what was the last thing that triggered you and that you had to recognize, like, wow, this is a trigger for me, and you have to believe it first before you can actually slay it.
Go ahead, Gas.
Okay. So you know what? I'll say I really it popped up immediately when I seen the question. I decided to go out last night to celebrate my birthday, something I don't usually do. And what I recognized is in my initial thing of playing the victim, when I went out, my initial thing was to have a good time. And I realized when I got to the place that I was going, my mind automatically started to go to the negative. Like, you know what, you're too old, you got kids out home, you shouldn't be out enjoying yourself, you should be at home being a mom. And it was like, in the moment, it took me maybe like 30 minutes to get to this place, and I'm sitting there, didn't want to, dance, do nothing that my soul felt like doing to express myself. And I sat there, and I'm looking at all of these other women my age and older having a good time and enjoying themselves in the moment. And I'm like, why in the world am I not able to do that right now? That's the whole point of me being here. But I was upset with them for having the fun that I was refusing to have. And so it was in that moment that I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm gonna act up. And then I'm thinking like, I just wrote this book about how I'm not doing, X, Y, and Z anymore. But then I had to realize that doesn't define me. I'm allowed to enjoy my life. I'm allowed to be who Yasmin is and still show people you can overcome stuff and still embrace who you are. But I was literally about to go in this victim thing and then get out of it and say, oh, I didn't enjoy my night because I didn't do anything. It wasn't fun. Everybody else was acting up and I wasn't. And so, yeah, that was my last trigger.
Wow. We just talked about that having the peace and then wanting to have some dysfunction in there. You just got to make your mind up before you go, because that's how you set your mind, body, and spirit on one accord before you leave. Make your mind up. Believe you're gonna go and have a good time. What was the last thing that triggered me was almost opposite. I don't know if it was or not, but being in the same state with my mom in the same city, what triggered me, see, I'm used to making a flight or making arrangements for a flight to go see her. So I was driving here and we were sitting talking together, and what triggered me, she started reminding me that her 90th birthday is coming up on the 29th of November. She's like, I'll be 90 years old. All of a sudden, I just started wailing and crying. That triggered me because suddenly I realized that I am present and that I can be present and that it's okay for me to get off work, drive by, see my mom. It's okay. I don't have to call because I know she ain't driving. She ain't going nowhere. And that triggered me, but it triggered a joy and excitement and and a whole lot of different feelings inside of me. I just started crying. I was just grateful for that, because that has always it's always what we want. We want to be able to be present, to bring joy to someone. You can't keep it all to yourself. You got to share it, and it is contagious in a lot of ways, just like a smile. I don't have to speak your language to smile and, nod at someone. So that triggered something in me, just being present and being able to drive over to my mom's, drive over to my kids. It's just, oh, I get all excited about that. So, and I chose to be happy. So with me thinking in my mind that my presence makes a difference, and
Mm,
then realizing even before like right now with this that Tiffany said, we're gonna talk about triggers. It's like, wait, what? Because I started thinking last night about how God prepared things for us, Yasmin and Tiffany, way before even today,
right.
for this day, so that we can come together, young, strong Black women, and I'm the young too.
Of
Young,
course.
strong Black women encouraging one another. We did it 20 years ago. And here we are now, 2 decades later, saying to each other, you go, girl. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you. You have become something even you didn't think you could be, a writer, a mother, a wife, a motivator. We give. Tiffany was in the yard the other day talking about planting and then things that are green. And we know that every year brings about a change with a season, right?
You want to
This
know?
is our season. This is our season.
Yaz was in my yard when that happened. So for you to
Oh,
get up and
yeah.
posted that way after she left and stuff like that, that's hilarious that you're bringing that up. That's why she's smiling, because
Yep.
she was there when I videotaped that video, and she's
Yeah.
so. It's funny how God works with that connection. Just you pointing that out, and that was something that was a while ago. So that's amazing. I love to see God's presence.
I'm never surprised when we talk, because crazy enough, we connect. And we always go crazy when something is said that we've either thought about or talked about, go, oh my God, oh, we can't get it out. Sometimes, Tiffany, I don't have long enough. I have to tell her kids, okay, I'm going to give you your mom back in just a minute. I got to tell this real quick. Because that's how it goes.
Yeah. And you know what I love that you said is that what people don't also recognize is that you can self-trigger yourself into the good things. And you
Mm-hmm.
can trigger yourself into joyful moments. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I ended up doing. That's how I ended up destroying that trigger, that bad trigger, and actually recycling it into a good trigger where, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm present. I'm
Yes.
present. Her mother is present.
Yes.
She doesn't have to look over to the crowd because I'm on the sideline. And I'm literally, and I had to recognize that. And in that, I was telling God how thankful I was.
Mm.
How thankful I was for him to have shown me that early on. Where
Yes.
there's a lot of people that are addicted to their triggers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And to the bad ones. And so then it's like they don't get a chance to trigger something good in themselves. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
bad. And I'm realizing that I can flip that. I can
Yeah.
heal my kids. And so right before this whole conversation, my kids were asking what the show was about, and I started talking, and I started bawling, and I was telling them how I was so grateful to be their mother,
Yes.
and I'm so grateful to be what they need and to be present. And I told them,
Mm-hmm.
I was telling them, like, because I was mad at them the other day, and I said, I want you to understand, I've never had anybody care about that particular issue. I've never
Mm-hmm.
had anybody even tell me, like, hey, this is da 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 da, about those particular issues. I have been parented, but in the way that you're being parented, I want to trigger good things in you. I want, when
Right.
you leave me, I want you to be able to be triggered by the good things your mother did. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff. And I want to create a strong legacy that my
There
kids,
you go.
oh my God, my mom, da 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 da, and stuff like that. And so I want people to understand that what Miss Allen said about triggers is it's okay to flip your triggers into good.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't destroy them, change them into good triggers, into
Yes.
things that you can be grateful and joyful about.
Absolutely. And another way to destroy those triggers is to just remember that you encourage yourself first thing in the morning. Start with you. Encourage yourself in the morning. There's nothing conceited about being convinced about who you are by looking in the mirror saying, girl, you look good. Girl, you wearing that. Girl, you wake up in the morning like this. It's okay to do that to yourself, to encourage yourself. And when you said, how do you destroy those triggers? Where my phone at? Okay, there I am. Okay. Then I've thought about how even with my own kids, how the conversation had to change as a young mom. Like you said, it depends on how you were brought up. There are 10 of us in the family. My mom did not have all the time to just give to me with 10 kids. It's like we all have 10 fingers, but when we cut one of them, we give that one the attention, and then we go, take care of the other 9. We do what we have to do to make sure that all 10 of our fingers are okay eventually, but one might need a little bit more attention at that time. So how I destroy triggers with me and my conversation with my kids, for an example, is I used to, oh gosh, how can I begin a phone call in the middle of this? Okay, so my trigger was I changed the conversation. I used to tell, I think I was kind of yelling, but maybe I was just talking loud, telling them what they should be doing and should not be doing. And I had to change the conversation. I had to change it and say, well, when I was your age, this is what I did. Or these are the choices I would make. Just like you talk to your students or just like you talk to people at work, it's still a relationship. And in a relationship, Tiffany, we know reciprocity. You feed into me, I'm feeding into you. So we have to be careful what we feed our kids, not just the food on the table, but what we give them as far as conversation, as far as how we react. Like Yasmin said, sometimes, we usually react quick. We quick to jump off. It's like, wait a minute, hold up. Let me put something in that. You don't know me. But we do have to take time, test the water before you dive in. Put your toe in and see how cold it is or how hot it is. Because we're boss ladies and you never know how hot we can get until it starts boiling. It's kind of like some tea, until you pour the hot water on the tea bag. You don't realize if it's a hot boiling water or if it's cool. Either way, we're going to blow off some steam. But it is going to be positive. We're going to destroy those triggers. Start having conversations with the people that you love that are honest, standing your truth. Don't be afraid to tell them who you were at that age because you haven't always been mama. And you're just like, people in church, they ain't always been saved and we still working on that. That's why we going to church or whatever the case may be. So the reason we have these conversations with Tiffany, because we want to pull from all points. We don't want to get caught up in this box. Oh, but you're so good at this. Just stay the way you are. No, baby, go so you can grow.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't let people label you, put you in a box. Why I can't hear you guys? Can you hear me? Because I'm on it.
Yes.
Okay. I can't hear y'all, but it's okay. I can read lips.
How do you destroy?
Oh, I hear you now. There we go. This is so much fun.
I love it.
I have to do this more often with you ladies. How do you destroy your triggers, Yasmin?
Oh my goodness. I was going to touch on something that Miss Allen said. So when it comes to my kids, me and Tiff were just talking about this, that she was like, guys, I can't even see you yelling. And I had to think with my kids, when it comes to my kids, I can't yell. I told her when I try to get loud with my kids, because sometimes they just don't be taking me that serious because I am goofy. If I start to elevate my voice at all, my voice is gone for like 24 hours. And I'd be like, Lord, why? I'm really being serious right now. So I got in this habit of, I used to say, because I said so. I would tell them to do something and I would say, because I said so. And then it's like God convicted my heart. Like, why are you telling them because they said so? They're trying to learn right now. And I had to stop saying because I said so. I told them that because that's what I heard growing up. Right. Don't ask me no questions because I said so. Well, that's dumb. Like literally in your head. So I knew my kids were thinking that. I said, if they're 10 times more, 10 times greater than me, I know they're like, Mom, whatever. So I started having them conversations with them to literally stop feeling like I had to control them and allow them to be themselves. And so I just wanted to touch on that because I thought that was so funny. I'm like, am I the only mom that can't yell at my kids like I wanted to? Like, it's an accomplishment, but not, whatever. So the way that I destroy the triggers, like being the victim, is just literally also, like Miss Allen said, avoiding situations that would allow me to be like that. Like if I know, and a lot of times we already know when something is going to trigger us. Like I know if I'm going to talk to a certain person, every time we have a conversation, it ends up the same way. So I know ahead of time if I want to have that conversation with somebody, and if I know where it's going to go, or they're not in a place to have the conversation, just don't have the conversation. And so the way that I destroy that is stopping to think. Sometimes the people need to come to you. I used to be the one trying to solve stuff. Like I will talk you to death. Like, okay, nope, we're finna talk about this because I don't like tension. I don't like drama. I don't like none of that. And the person's like, I'm not ready to talk. What do you mean you're not ready to talk? But you're quick to tell me you got attitude with me. No, we finna talk about this. So I had to recognize sometimes, I have to wait for the person to come and be like, hey, can we have this conversation? Because then I know they're in a place to have the conversation and not overly bash or dig too deep. And then it turns into this emotional crying, yelling match or whatever. And so I also pray. That's another way. Like, I know I'm not strong enough to do this. Can you take this out of me? So then I stop feeling like I have to be the victim at the end of it.
I was going to say, you said something really good, and I wanted to touch on this really quick. A lot of us don't recognize, this just came to me, that most of the time God doesn't let us fix something right then and right there is because he wants to show you where he shows up. Or he's saying, this has nothing to do with you. This isn't you that fixed this.
Right.
A lot of times I'm like, well, because I fixed this. But it was really like, no, God's like, I had to change their heart. I had to do some. I like in my book, I talk about transplanting your soil and putting nutrients in your soil. He's like, no, I had to go in there and I had to garden. And so you're not gonna hear from them for a year because that's how long it's gonna take me to tend to their soil. And I think sometimes I'm starting to recognize this. I'm starting to see where I have to take my hands off of things because God's like, I'm the gardener, and in that I'm gardening. And so with that, I don't need you messing with stuff. I don't need you checking on things or stuff like that, because when a seed is underneath, the gardener and the seed both have to have faith in each other that they're both doing the work.
Ooh, yes.
And so I have to remember that when my parents are not getting it and things are not clicking for certain friends, that God's like, that's me.
Yes.
I have things to do. That's me. And then I have to also, then God's telling me, come to me so I can also tend to your soil, because it doesn't feel good when somebody stumps on a beautiful flower. And we forget that some people do it unintentionally. They're just rushing to something, or they're trying to get something, or they didn't see it. And I have to remember that it's okay. Some people don't do it intentionally.
Right.
And some people do. Some people actually do go and rip things out of the dirt and stuff like that. And I need to understand and know the difference, but I also have to trust in God that he will replant me.
Amen to that. That's good. That's real good, Tiffany.
Poetry.
Yes. That's real good. And we do, because with that being planted, everything that is buried or covered, it can come out. I think you talked about that too in your book, Come Out Beautiful. Believe it or not, when you plant something, something's going to come up. Remember you were talking about that, and whether it's the weeds or something good, but you still have to go through and pick through that we do the same thing with our conversations, with our friends. We do it when we go for a job. We don't just apply to say that, oh, I have a job. We want to apply in something just like in a relationship that we're going to be able to give ourselves to, and that we're going to get something out of it that's going to make us a better person, not just to say, oh, yeah, I work at that, but you're not happy in doing it. So you get to still choose. You get to destroy triggers where you have a conversation with someone, an old friend or somebody you feel committed or loyal to because you've been knowing them for a long time. So you answer the phone, knowing how the conversation is going to go. They're going to always want their store to be bigger and better than yours. You got on a nice blue dress. They got a fancy green one. It's always going to, they always trying to top your story. And it's like, okay, really, they called me not to hear me. but for me to listen to them. So, and that's just like at a family reunion. You got a lot of people that don't bring anything, but they leave with a lot of food, so
With
you
the
have to
whole
be
thing.
careful who you're giving it to.
Yeah.
Protect yourself, protect your energy, and destroy all the negative triggers. We already know they are. We've got that discernment because we do pray and we ask God for that. And a lot of times we are in denial. He shows us and we go, nah, that's not it. God,
Yeah.
that's not it. And then God said, okay. And like Tiffany said, I'm learning to keep my hands out of his ingredients. If he's making something and building something and molding something to me, I have to believe and trust that it's going to come out gold after going through the fire, that it's going to be all right. I have to believe and trust that where he's putting me is where I'm supposed to be. And so I give my best like he gave his and just go from there. Doors will be open. And even when you don't think anybody's looking, they are. Somebody's always watching. Even those who have negative things to say or don't say anything and then just kind of look, they're watching. So I always say, okay, come on to the table. You can either eat or you can just watch me eat. Either way, if we're attached, we're going to be winning because we all, and here we are, three of us now that bond, those three cores could be us right now. That triangle could be us right now. We're not an ordinary square. We like a triangle. We all pointing different ways and lifting each other up because that's what we do. So
Bars.
I'm loving being on this. I don't know how long it's supposed to last, but Tiffany, you know I'm a talker. So you're going to have to either give me a cut or stop, something, because I could go on, especially when we're talking about not only the goodness of God and how he's blessed us and kept us through everything we thought, where was God when this was happening to me? Where was God when I was going through this? And he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And once we got in his will and stopped trying to put him in ours, then we realized it's a whole lot easier
You're
to
absolutely
just wake
right.
up and give thanks and move forward.
You're absolutely right. My last question is: have you asked yourself, sis, is it you? So, ladies, what is your most recent sis, is it you moment you've experienced?
Oh, go ahead, Yasin. You first.
Scratch my weave, y'all. No, just kidding. I was gonna tap off earlier when you were talking about looking at the situation from a different perspective. Like even in Tiff's book, she talks about being in the mirror. So while God is working on the other person, I feel like that's your time to be in the mirror because you need to see the stuff inside of you. God is trying to show you stuff that you need to work on while he's working on the other people in the situation. And so it popped up. It's like, okay, are you in the mirror? Are you really in the mirror? So that you can dig up those old roots or the roots that no longer serve you so that you can plant them new seeds so that they do flourish into something beautiful. Yeah, I've asked myself, is it you lately? Did I like it? No. Did I have to go through it? Yes. I was just speaking about one of the situations that I had to go to, and God made me go back to the person and apologize. Was I happy with it? No, I'm going to say this. It was an ex-husband. And, I didn't like it at all. I'm going to say it like that. I can't put it no other way. But it humbled me. And then it helped him in his healing journey. But let me say this. It took me, God told me to apologize a long time ago, and I didn't. But then when I sat back and thought about why I didn't, my ego and my pride. And so the longer that it took me to get to the point where I finally apologized just a couple of days ago, knowing I was supposed to a year ago, I realized how much suffering I put myself through during that year because I was disobedient. And a lot of stuff didn't have to happen the way that it did if I did what God told me to do a year ago. So I'm sitting over here blaming him, God, everybody else but myself for the past year and the stuff that made me feel less than myself. But then God put me in the mirror and was like, you remember that day I told you to get on the phone and call? Or when he came over and I told you to have this conversation and you told me God no? And so I let life happen to you the way that it was supposed to, because you have free will.
Mm.
All right, God, I don't like this conversation right now. I don't like none of this, but whatever.
Like, I'll call you back.
I know, look, okay, we're going to pray again tomorrow because I don't like what you're showing me. So, you know, I had that sis is it you moment, and it really humbled me to the point where I'm able to be on here and have this conversation, because the old me would have said, nope, I'm not getting on there to talk about no triggers. Everything triggers me. I'm not going to have that conversation. But, you know, I've had to dig up a lot of old roots and a lot of things that made me feel like if I put my face out there, if I had these conversations, people would be able to judge me. They're going to judge you regardless. And so what I realized is God had you go through everything for a reason, and it made you better, but it's also not just about you. It's about the people connected to you.
Absolutely.
So everything that we're going through and we're healing through, somebody else is going through it feeling like they can't make it through. And we're on the other side for a reason. So yeah, I'm still going through the sis is it you, but I've had the biggest revelation to date just recently, having to humble myself to apologize to somebody that I felt like did it to me and created the life that I have. So
that's good.
That's good. That's good. I always say that, sis, is it ever since the book. I have to ask myself that often, because I find myself in these situations like sometimes I wasn't even going that way. How did I end up on this street? Okay. I did not ask for this. But I have to think about like where I am now opposed to where I was 20 or even 30 years ago, because what God has done was do a 360 in my life for me, brought me back where it all started. But the thing was, he had to get me away so that I can gain education, gain experience, and then come back where I wanted to feed into. It wasn't time for that. That's not where he wanted me to be planted. He wanted me to come back to where it all began. Began in my own community, feed back and with my own family and give back there. Sis, is it you? Yeah, it's me. I'm the one who was here 30 years ago, where everybody labeled and had already figured out my future for me and said what I was and wasn't going to be, or wasn't going to become. And God said, no, I got something else. Like Tiffany said about keeping your hands out the ingredients. Also, when you're writing your plans, you better do it in pencil and give him the eraser, because there are going to be a bunch of changes made and a bunch of different routes to go. You can still go where it is that you are destined to go, but sometimes you might have to take a different route. And that route took me in a lot of different directions. And because of that, it's me. Yeah, I'm the one. I'm the one. And when we say, sis, is it you? In the back of your mind, think about like being chosen. If it's you, you're the chosen one. That means you have something to do. Yeah, it's not just for me. When I go to school, or when I get an education, when I hang a degree up, or when I meet people who are influential in my life, it's not just for me. It's for my children. It's for my grandchildren and my grandchildren's children. It's for all of them. And I might not even see it, or I might not even be a part of what it is that I'm building. I might not see the end result, but it will be for them to see. Pick up, like the old Treasure Island thing, you leave all these clues, and then people later on come back and pick up and finish where you left off. Now they call it research, but back then they call it Treasure Island clue, but it's like research. And you get into it. I'm the one. Yeah, it's me. Sis, it's me. I'm leaving a trail like Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, pick that up. Find out where it can go next time to do something better, to build better, to build bigger, and, believing in yourself. Tiffynee put in her book about God's promises, and that's what I stand on. I went through and I wrote in the book, I looked up all of his promises, and they all were yes, amen, true. This is who you are. So you read that book and you reflect on who you are. It's a history book. We know that. It's a science book. It's a math book. Okay. He adds on daily, and it's everything we need for everyday life, and everything we need is right there. So, sis, is it me? Yeah, heck yeah. It's always been me. I just didn't realize it. I
Oh,
wanted to put it on somebody else because I didn't want the responsibility. It's a
well,
lot when you're trying to, take care of you and do what it is that you feel is right for you, and then you're making mistakes in the meantime. You're like, I can't tell nobody about this. I got to just only tell them the good stuff. I can't tell them the bad, but the bad made the good. Because if you are never sick, you can't tell anybody about being healed. If you've
right,
never been lost, you can't tell anybody what it's like to be found. So all those things, you have to go through it, and we know that to get to it. But when it's raining and you driving in a storm, a lot of times your sense say pull over until the storm is over. And then, but in life, you have to keep driving because the sun's going to be shining on the other side. You just be careful in that drive. You
right,
got to pay attention, just like in real life. Walking around in these streets, you got to pay attention to what's going on around you, because everybody who's clapping and cheering is not really for you. They
yeah,
just watching, hoping you choke off that sandwich or that gum or whatever it is, but
oh God,
that you chewing on. That life, that book. They did not expect Tiffynee to come out with a book so challenging. And it's not an ordinary book that you just pick up and you just, oh, let me just see. I'm just going to support her because it's Tiffynee. And, we went to school together, so I'm just going to get her book. Then you get in the mail, you like, wait a minute, what? This is homework. Yeah. What kind of homework? Working on me at home, working on me at work, working on me in the grocery store, working on me and my husband's relationship, working on my relationship with me and my children. I'm working on a lot of stuff out of this book. So sis, every sis is not just a sis, like sister, it's brother too. Because
bro,
it's just like saying, is it you? Because
yeah,
it's the brothers too.
yes,
Get in there, stand on God's promises. Don't be scared to go to it's like a good movie. You put it down, because every now and then I'll get mad at myself when I'm looking in your book. And I say, you know what? She tripping. I'm not gonna do this next page. I'm not, it's too hard. Because you see who you are, like Yasmin said, you look in the mirror and the mirror don't lie. Yeah, we could take pictures with our camera and we can change it all day, the filter all day, but it is what it is.
this is so
And
good.
the truth is, the first snapshot is the truth. You can't change that. Only thing you can do is try to make it better. But that book, you can't stop. You can't. It's one of those books you're gonna do over and over and over. And if I could mention, sis, is it you? And that in your book, Yasmin, which was Off the Chain as well, standing in your truth. I applaud you for that. And I'm telling you, that had to be a release just to be able to put that on paper. Girl, because if I had started writing out something about when I would have, it would been full of tears. The paper, they would have been like, wonder what this word was, because the ink is smudged now. Oh, Lord. But I made it through it. And all of that.
Yeah.
And so now we just have to let our kids know
I
who we
love that.
are, and so they'll know who they're becoming, and they can watch out for those triggers, because they'll be like, wait a minute, mama said there'll be days like this. Let me see what I can do to make myself a better person. This is awesome. Just the fact that we're all together right now, Tiffynee.
I know.
Girl,
Thank you.
Tiffynee, you guys are awesome. I love y'all so much. I'm so proud of the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank
I wanted to
you.
say something because to our audience, because I know we are a little bit over time, but I do think that Yasmin book is a precursor to my book. I do think that's something that you should read before you read my book. And so you should go to her website and buy her book, because what she describes is what a lot of us have maybe necessarily not have been through, but the weight of carrying toxic love.
Mm-hmm.
Have carried. And I think what my book then does is comes in there and it slays that, and it puts it in front of your face and it says, okay, here's what we're about to do. And so I think Yaz's book is amazing because it allows you to say, okay, wait, I do have issues. Because if you jump right into sis, is it you, and you're not ready to be in front of a mirror, you will put my book down and you will never pick it back up. And Yaz's book makes you say, oh my God, I've went through this. How am I going to fix this? And so I appreciate God placing Yaz in my life
Yes.
and on paper, because what it described was, oh my God, now how do I slay? How do I let go? How do I unload this toxic love? And then once I unload it, what do I do? Because she is coming out without unloading it. And going into the Sis Is It You moment, mine was yesterday. I'd asked my daughter, she came and gave me a hug, and I said, does it bother you that nobody comes to your dreams? And she said, no, it doesn't. The people that are there that are supposed to be there are there. And I said, so it just bothers me? And she said, yes, it just bothers you. And I said to myself in that moment, and as you guys were talking, I was like, oh my God, I slayed a curse. And we don't talk about what curses look like after they're slayed, because we still bring the memory of them up, but we don't recognize that I slayed a curse. And my daughter's like, that ain't even something I'm worried about, because Daddy and you were here. And I didn't understand that. Like, I had did something, what it looks like to actually jump in front of something and say, no, I killed that. It's dead. It no longer lives. And I'm allowing the memory of it because I'm self-triggering a negative memory about my childhood.
Right.
We have to recognize that I'm having Sis Is It You moments all the time. Jordan gives them to me very frequently. But it was like, no, it's just you, Mom. It's just you that bothers. Sis, it's you. And I was like, oh my God. And I want to pay homage to my children, because sometimes I don't think we recognize, Miss Allen said this, that we are here to create our legacy and to build on our legacy. And there are a lot of parents, and I will say this, and this has to be said, there are a lot of parents that think they're here for just themselves. God did not place you on this earth just for yourself. There are people on this earth that think they're here just for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
God did not place you here for you to do anything by yourself. So the fact that we have parents that are like, well, I got to work and I got to do this and I got to do this. You can tell your job, I will not be there. Because if the job comes before your legacy doesn't have anything to stand on. And I think you remember that. Like, if your friends become before your legacy, there's so many things that your legacy will be weakened by its foundation because of what the foundation you created it on. And I'm just thankful that I'm recognizing that I slayed a curse, and I did not even recognize that I had did that. So
yes.
I really thank you, ladies, for joining me today, and everybody that watched. This was an amazing episode, and I definitely am having these guys back. Definitely. So, ladies, I love you so much. Please, Yasmin, tell them how they can buy your book.
Okay. So it's on Amazon under Confessions of an Irritated Soul. You can also contact me on Facebook, and I can deliver if you're local, or send it to you if that works better. But Miss Allen, you should have an updated version soon. She got the authentic copy. And yes. Thank you, Tiff. I love you too. Thank you for having us.
Miss Allen, can you tell everybody how they can watch your spiritual seasonings?
Yes, please do. It is what it is. My name, The Truth, Benita, B-E-N, like Nancy, I-T, like Tom, A, Allen. And it is YouTube channel. And basically, I'm trying to encourage, motivate. I'm just speaking. I'm standing my truth. I'm not always dressed up. I said that, but don't get it twisted. I'm educated, and I do give on experience and research, and I just talk. I don't edit. Once I do it, I send it. So it is what it is. Whatever's impressed on my heart that day, that's what I give to you. Sis, it's me. I'm that one that just gives it to you the way it comes to me. Also, and then I'm Benita K on Facebook. So that's all I have.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining me, ladies. I love you so much. I hope
we love you too.
Love you too.
I will see you guys soon. Bye.
You got it. Thank you. Bye, Yazzie. Bye, Tip.